Blog Talk Radio.
We are the music makers, and we are the dreamers of dreams.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Superhero Academy. I'm your host, Crossfire the Crusader, and online with me, I have our visiting professors this week, the sensational Skyman and the amazing Levionne. I told you I could get it right, and I didn't anyway. And I've also got area code 619. 619. I'm having some trouble getting you signed in here. For some reason, it keeps timing out on the area code 619. You might want to try and call, hang up and try and call it back again. We've got a bad connection there. But Skyman, Levionne, tell our listeners howdy today.
I believe our subject for conversation is St. Patrick.
Yes, sir. Today's topic of conversation is St. Patrick. Who else have we got on here? I thought I heard Silver Sentinel there. No? All right. Can everybody hear me? Because we're having some technical difficulties here. Looks like the Blog Talk's doing some maintenance.
I can hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, I hear you just fine.
Oh, awesome. Good. I'm having some trouble. Here comes our caller, area code 619. You're on Superhero Academy.
Hello, it's the Urban Avenger.
Urban Avenger, welcome to Superhero Academy. Good to have
How you guys today?
We're doing good. Today we're going to be talking about another historical, legendary, mythical, religious-type figure, the real-life St. Patrick. And I've got two visiting professors that's going to be helping me cover this. But I wanted to, of course, first off, as I studied this, I had just an odd thought. It was kind of ironic that this week the Wonder Woman TV series there, they revealed the costume for the actress that's going to be playing Wonder Woman, because Wonder Woman has a really unique history. She was created by the same guy that invented the lie detector. Did anybody know that?
I did not know that.
Yes, the same person that created the lie detector. He created Wonder Woman, and one of her main powers is that golden lasso that brings out the truth. You cannot lie when you're wrapped with it. And as I looked at St. Patrick, one of the things that I found in his life that a lot of the miracles that were associated with him were directly pointed towards bringing out truth in matters. There was 3 occasions where he was attributed to bringing somebody back from the dead to testify against accusations being leveled against him. So I thought, well, that's kind of a neat little trivia thing like this. We're going to be talking about the truth. And at the same time talking about a man who literally turned an island nation upside down, impacted the world in a way that nobody else could imagine, having done. So much so that he is celebrated around the world, even from the country where he is famous for being from. So I'm going to turn this kind of over to a visiting professor to start with. Who wants to go first, Levionne?
Well, the only comments I've got to do is how things got started with him was when when he was about a teenager, he was kidnapped or taken captive by, Irish raiders, and he was taken in and made a shepherd, essentially, over sheep. I always thought this was fascinating because this almost like the story of Joseph, out of the Bible, who had his coat of many colors. Even though he went into slavery or was thrown into slavery, ended up, coming back to save his people. And here, St. Patrick, essentially, before he got captured, he was made there. He was there for a while as a shepherd, and then he was able to escape, and then got himself sent back to help save the people in Ireland.
Well, definitely, yeah. One of the big falsehoods that around St. Patrick, most people don't realize, St. Patrick was not Irish. He was a Roman. Yeah, he was a Roman. Now, he wasn't even English. He was a Roman. His father was one of the governors that was ruling the island nation of England, overruling, overshadowing, whatever you want to call it. And when the Irish raiders took him prisoner, they made him a slave. And he ended up living most of his life in poverty, coming from basically a position of having, what he wanted, being a slave, and then lived his entire life in poverty by choice after his 20th birthday. So he did so because he was wanting to. He had a burden for the very people that put him in slavery. He wanted to make their lives better, offer them what he had, and did so in such a powerful way. We can change the course of an entire nation through your prayers and through your actions. You've done some impact here. That's a fascinating person to talk about.
Is that not a fascinating fact that the patron saint of Ireland was not even Irish?
Yes, I know, isn't it?
Wow.
That blew me away. At first when I heard he was English, from England, I thought, well, that's not too far. He actually was all the way from Rome.
I mean, when you think about St. Patrick, you think about Ireland.
You think about that little guy on the Notre Dame sign,
Or here in America, we think about celebrating St. Patrick's Day with an Irish brew.
Oh, yeah. Or like here in Hot Springs, the fountains are all turned green right now. All up and down Central Avenue.
Radio show.
So, we're talking, as we talk about St. Patrick, anybody that wants to call in and be part of the conversation, the call-in number is 917-889-3317, and you're here with Crossfire the Crusader, Skyman, and Levionne, and, of course, Urban Avenger. Urban Avenger, you want to add something to the conversation?
About St. Patrick?
Yeah.
I know there's green beer.
Amen.
That's about it.
Oh,
I have some pretty interesting stories from our patrol on St. Patrick's Day. That's about it.
I read some of those that you had posted online. It sounded like you had a pretty interesting day.
Yeah, it was entertaining, to say the least.
Oh, definitely. Now, here, I got to look at the dates exactly. Here in just a few weeks, you're going to be coming on as visiting professor and talking about your work looking for the Chula Vista Groper. How's that going so far?
Oh, he's that's actually case closed.
Did they ever find him?
Yeah, they found him on an unrelated note, and
cool.
and they caught him, and he's in jail right now.
Oh, wow,
awesome.
Impressive.
Yeah.
I actually found out this week that the person that I had stopped from killing my neighbors has been sentenced to 10 years, and he's been in jail ever since that night. He didn't make bond. So
wow, the night with the baseball bat and the underwear?
That was me.
Yeah.
I was the guy.
Right.
I was the guy with the knife, fully clothed.
Right.
Maybe Crossfire was debuting a new gimmick.
Yeah.
That's so silver.
I've tried patrolling in that, and it doesn't work.
And you thought we were pretty colorful characters in what we wore. Think about a guy in his underpants with a baseball bat coming at you. Man, I'd quit whatever the heck I was doing.
Yeah.
Especially a guy built like me. You know? Like Jabba the Hutt and he's armed, you know.
Yeah, someone the size of a grizzly bear.
You know, and
probably a bit like myself as well.
Now, if we go back to talk about St. Patrick, because we're learning from the history, from people in the past, that their lives, or last week's case, their death, like Kitty Genovese, the impact that they've had on the world, the changes that have come about, and the things we can learn from that. And, you know, St. Patrick is most famous for one act that really he didn't have anything to do with, which was driving snakes out of Ireland. I mean, we've all heard the story about him picking up a stick and chasing the snakes out of Ireland. But, of course, they say that there was never any snakes in Ireland because it's just not an area that's, you know, receptive to snakes. It was too cold. The water around it was too cold for snakes to migrate. But there was actually a story where he was praying for 40 days and 40 nights up in a cave on a mountain. And the legend says that the writings, his story tells that he was surrounded by demons, that it looked to the people like he was a cloud around him. And but they took the form of birds, and I said that he actually came out and rang his bell. That he every time he'd ring his bell when he started praying, and the demons fled into the ocean. And one of the testimonies from the day says they looked like snakes as they fled into the ocean to leave Ireland. So that's where that legend comes from. But more solid stories is, you know, you're looking at a young man who did leave slavery, went back to England, went to seminary to get trained in ordaining, and returned to the very people who enslaved him and faced them down. I said, according to his writings, he faced nearly daily death threats or physical challenges that could have ended in his death during the time that he was there.
Daily condemnation, and yet he decided to stay on in Ireland. That's amazing.
Yeah, really. I mean, if you were looking at your neighborhood and you needed to change that, you were going to be threatened daily, that your life was going to be under threat, how many people would really stand up to that?
Probably not very many.
We have a built-in little switch that says "get out of there when you're in danger," and his little switch was disarmed. You know,
the flight or fight reflex, and he chose to stay on and fight. Not in a physical sense, but in a spiritual sense of fighting. Spiritual warfare, I'm sure.
In the list of his miracles attributed to him, there are 33 to 39 cases where he raised somebody from the dead.
Wow. We thought Christ raising Lazarus was impressive, but 39 people? Holy crap. Pardon my...
You know, in three cases, he was having charges brought against him by somebody, and he literally raised somebody from the dead that was a witness to the incident to testify on his behalf.
Man, wouldn't we like to do that in modern day?
Oh, I'm telling you, there was two cases that I read where somebody had died before he could minister to them and preach the gospel to them, and it says he prayed and raised them from the dead, and prayed with them and baptized them, and then they went to sleep and died again.
Oh wow! Truly
it's
saving
like he wants to take no for an answer, you know. And you know, when we talked about Saint Nicholas, we read about a man of passion who, you know, charged into a execution, took the sword away from the guards and threw it across the room and told the guys, these guys leave with me. We talked about a guy who slapped another bishop so hard he knocked him unconscious and broke the bishop's nose and hurt his own hand. And we read about St. Patrick, and we don't hear anything out of him. I don't find anything like that kind of physical presence, but I find a person that just walked forward and didn't let anything stop him. And I'm thinking, wow, whatever your beliefs, whatever your mission, whatever your choice, if you were to walk forward and not allow anything to stop you, not fear, not opposition, not lies, not death threats, not challenges, what kind of impact could you make in your community?
A severe impact, I would agree.
Oh, yeah. And, and when you look at what he accomplished, a lot of it is steeped in mythology. It is steeped in it's hidden behind the legends and the lore and the hallmark sentiments, the on cards and the green hats and the green beard. But you see a man who his determination in his lifetime is still celebrated around the world, and in a big way. Why is that? Because of the impact he had. He turned a country from paganism to Christianity through his actions. He took a country that was the tribes were at war with each other and brought peace. He took a country that hated him for who he was and became their beloved patron saint. So much so that when he died, they fought over who got his body.
Wow.
But one of the things I always thought was interesting, if I can interrupt a little bit, was he used the shamrock to explain the Trinity of God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. And so every time you see a shamrock, for St. Patrick's Day, it actually is, in a sense, a holy symbol of the Trinity that he used, to explain to people. And it was something that was natural. It was something that was of the natives. So he could just, reach down, pick up a shamrock, and hold it up. He goes, you see, this is one leaf, but it's divided into three, And I just always thought it's interesting that every time, every St. Patrick's Day, you always see shamrocks everywhere. I mean, people have them, they wear them, and most people probably doesn't even know why they are wearing a shamrock.
So the shamrock represented the Trinity.
Exactly.
Isn't that a righteous fact? Wow. So we all thought we were just blending in with all the green beer and the Irish and the imbibing of the Irish whiskey, but actually the shamrock is a holy relic. Wow.
Yep. There's it talks about Easter celebration. Easter, of course, is a pagan, was a pagan holiday. And there was a law, a tradition, whatever, that nobody could light a fire in the presence of the king on Easter. And St. Patrick's lit a fire right there on the hilltop where nobody could miss it. And it says that they sent his army to put the fire out. The king, put the fire out and kill the person responsible, because that's what they would do. And they sent the army. It said that St. Patrick released the armies of heaven against him, and 77 of his soldiers dropped dead. Wow. Right there in front of the king. And it said that the king standing there in the presence of St. Patrick when this happened, that's when he reached down and picked up the shamrock for the first time and taught that lesson.
Wow.
It claims on another occasion there was one of their kings. Each tribe had their own king, my understanding. And this king came against him and was going to kill him, and the man's arm turned as hard as a statue, and he could not move his arm until he ceased his aggression and listened to what Patrick had to say. And there's story after story of people that came against him, and in their challenge to him, he answered them with such wisdom and such grace, and such his words were so carefully crafted that they tripped over their own words and found themselves listening to him, and in some cases ended up becoming his followers. In most cases, ended up becoming a follower of Christ. And I read that as a Christian. That is just I'm amazed. I'm thinking, here's another person from history that I wish I could sit down and just talk with.
It almost sounds like St. Patrick was a much calmer and much more verbally persuasive fellow than St. Nicholas. St. Nicholas was a bit of a boisterous fellow, if we remember from our talk back in December, where St. Patrick sounds like he used peace and diplomacy and, the virtues of Christ and the Shamrock to explain to Ireland why they should all believe and follow the Word.
To use the geeky, nerdy definitions that we're familiar with, St. Nicholas was a chaotic good. St. Patrick was a lawful good. That's the way I see it. St. Patrick was very ordered in what he did. He was very straightforward, very soft-spoken from everything I read. I'm going to make a caller. Area code 305. You're on Superhero Academy.
Hey, this is Night Owl. How are you?
Hey, Night Owl. Thanks for
Night Owl!
Who is that?
Looks like the Pacific Northwest is representing today.
Seriously?
Yes, it is.
Oh, it's a Skyman. How are you doing, pal?
Good, sir, and yourself?
I am surviving. I'm actually just trying to take care of some bills, and it's been a kind of a crazy week. So this
Did you
weekend.
survive your Krav Maga battle?
Oh yeah. Thanks for actually bringing that up. For those of you who don't follow me on the Facebook, I took a 3-hour qualifier to advance one level in my Krav Maga class. So yeah, I passed. I got the belt, and now I can go to more classes and get more beat up.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Wow, sounds cool.
That's always good to hear.
Oh, it's a lot of fun.
You've been listening. We've been talking about St. Patrick, some of the stories that passed down concerning him. Sadly, the church history was not as well documented as it could have been, and so we're having to sort through legend and lore and mythology as well as the recorded history on him, and a lot of what we get from him comes from his own writings. Some of that's even been called into question, whether it was him or another person. But we've been looking at a man that impacted the world around him just by being straightforward and facing every challenge and doing so with dignity, doing so with calmness, doing so with very well-crafted words. And I'm finding a person that I really like in there. I've always pictured, if you look at the tradition, I pictured Santa Claus as being this happy, joyful fellow that was always calm and quiet, and St. Patrick being the little guy from the Fighting Irish, from Notre Dame. But it turns out that St. Patrick may have been the one that was calm and quiet, whereas St. Nicholas was the one that would jump up and slap you,
What a turnaround.
I know, it's really, the more I get into this, and we'll look at some more saints. I'm down the road. I'm going to look at some people like St. Francis of Assisi and some of the others, but this one, it's probably a surprise. I expected I expected a firecracker when I started digging into the life of St. Patrick, but what I found was a silent explosion that just leveled the world. I mean, it flipped the nation of Ireland upside down, and did so in such a calm way. It's amazing. We in this real life superhero community argue about who's doing it the right way and who's doing it the wrong way on an almost daily basis.
It's true.
Should we not patrol? Should we use force? Should we not use force? Should we hand out food? Should we not hand out food? And we're always arguing about who's doing it right and who's doing it wrong. But results, you look, hindsight's 20/20. That's why I look back at these people like this. Hindsight is 20/20. You see a person like St. Nicholas that did it with fire and explosion. An action movie star waiting to happen. We're actually there making an action type movie about Nicholas and Myra. And then you see a person like Patrick who escaped, went to college, got ordained, went back to where he escaped from, and calmly stood up to everybody and did what was right.
Calmly, persistently, and without any violence, preached the gospel and, converted the whole nation of Ireland.
Thousands of them. He said he baptized, thousands and thousands of people. He personally himself baptized thousands and thousands of people.
Truly, a lesson can be learned from St. Patrick about having a calm demeanor and being persuasive and diplomatic and all of that, instead of, ooh, I'm going to take down the bad guy. I'm going to be all aggressive.
Have any of you ever read the book The Crossfire the Crusader or seen the movie? You learn about, I remember his name, Dave Wilkerson. And Dave Wilkerson faced off against street gangs. I've got another caller in here. That's an unknown caller. I don't accept an unknown caller. Sorry about that. But Dave Wilkerson took to the streets of New York City and was facing off against street gangs, and some of the worst street gangs you could imagine. And he did the same thing with a soft voice and a calm demeanor. He faced off against these people, and he won through the Lord Nicky Cruz. Nicky Cruz, who was his parents were breeding, had trained him to be a cult leader. He was a gang leader who was just terribly violent, and I've actually heard Nicky Cruz speak. He is one of the best preachers I've ever heard. One of the greatest soul winners in the world. And, he did that through calm, cool, and collected, and just stood up and faced it. He didn't back down. I think that we in this community have a lot to learn from that. Sometimes just to stand our ground and go out there and say, I'm going to do what's right. And I know you're going to laugh at me for the way I do it. I know you're going to laugh at me and make fun of me. I know you're going to talk bad about me. I know you're going to insult me. I know you're going to make accusations against me. But do so. I'm going to stand my ground. I got another caller. I'm going to get you online. Area code 607.
Well, hello. Is this here Crossfire?
This is Crossfire.
Well, Crossfire, this here is Superman. We've talked before.
Oh, definitely, Superman. I'm going to cut you short. We've got about 3 minutes, so we're not going to have much to talk, and about 1 minute to the end of the show.
Is that the Earth Agent Superman?
Yes, it is.
Superman is
wow. Truly an old schooler.
Before the Internet supposedly started the superhero movement. Kind of old school.
Very. It is an honor and privilege to speak to you, good sir.
Hello there, Superman.
Well, while the history lessons were nice, I think maybe you should dwell a little bit on what can be done now. Like one of the things I do is working through the Internet is promote righteous causes by providing them with free sites. I also help out any worthwhile group. Now, I'm sure you all know several worthwhile outreach groups out there, correct?
Oh, of course.
Yes.
And those that are staffed correctly are generally staffed by retirees who have the time to volunteer, and all the budget goes towards helping people. However, they would like a nice website to promote their cause. Who doesn't these days, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I make them a website, teach their people how to use it, and turn them loose on it. It's just something to do while I recover from injuries.
Awesome.
Sometimes it ain't always easy being super, if you know what I mean.
Get you back on here later down the road, and we get you a whole show.
Well, if you'd like, you got my email, right?
I've got your email. I've got you on Facebook. So I'll get you a message and see when we can fit you in sometime in the next quarter. Because
How do I find Earth Agent Superman on Facebook? Just look up Earth Agent Superman or what?
Just Superman.
I've got him on my page. I'll pass it on to you.
Thank you.
But I'm going to go ahead and close things out. I want to thank everybody for calling in.
Facebook and MySpace are just a shade tacky. Tell you what, write to ulab1@juno.com, and I'll send you a few goodies.
All right.
Kind of show you what I've been up to.
I don't have a pen and paper to write that website down, but if Crossfire would pass that link along, I would be much appreciated.
Well, it's just an email address.
To close out, folks, because they're going to cut us off here real quick. I'm going to hit our closing theme, and thank everybody for calling in, and we'll see you next week. And I'll stay on for just a few minutes after the song plays and address next week's show.
Thanks, Crossfire.
Thank you.
Have fun.
We're men in tights. We roam around the forest looking for light. We're men in tights. We run from the rich and give to the poor. That's right. equals rights. La 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 We're men, manly men, we're men in fight. Yeah! We roam around the forest looking for fight. We're men in time. We run from the rich and give to the poor, that's right. We may look like candy, but don't get us wrong or else we'll flag them out. We're men in tight, tight, tight. Always on guard, defending the people's rights. When you're in a fix, it's all for the men in time. We're Butch.
All right, everybody, we're only going to have a few minutes before we completely cut off here, but we are in the podcast right now, our little after show. I want to touch base. Next week we're going to have Perkayla. She's one of the Skiffy Towners. She's going to be talking about face painting for ferals. The following week I've got Artisteroy. I hope I'm saying that right. He's going to be joining us, and he's going to explain his, as a tinker, whatever you call it, how to build your superhero utility belt. Some of the good gadgets you can easily build and put on there. 10th of April, we've got Danger Woman. This is going to be a fun show. She's going to be talking about disability activism, and we've all spoken with Danger Woman and know what a great woman and force of nature she is when she gets on a roll, and she can definitely tell us what's
It'll be
going
a
on.
hoot to hear from Betsy in person.
Yes, it'll be interesting. The following week is Urban Avenger, talking about his the hunt for the Groper and other interesting developments that I've seen. This is going to be an interesting show with Urban Avenger, talking about what's going on there. And then the 24th of April is Easter Sunday, and we will be hosting sort of a roundtable discussion based around a blog that I did a while back called Who is the Greatest Superhero of All? And, of course, we're talking about on Easter my personal hero, Jesus Christ. So it will be definitely a highly religiously themed, as was today's program. From then on, we got a few other projects that are still waiting to be solidified in there, but Crimson Fist, Patriot, Stormbringer, Zimmer, and Geist are all in the line to come up here, and some other groups that are coming in for Mother's Day and Father's Day. There's going to be some interesting programs. So
good Lord, you have an all-star lineup there, Crossfire.
I'm trying to have somebody new, and because the Superhero Academy, I said every week they all have something to learn, and we all have something to teach, and we're going to, like I said, we'll try to slip some more of these historical figures in here as the weeks come, like Robin. The real Robin Hood is a good one I'd like to do, because there was a real person behind that, and there's others. As we dig into this, we learn more about ourselves and what we can do, and sometimes we shame ourselves into what we're not doing. So I want to thank all of you that called in. Levionne, Skyman, it's been a great show. Superman, thank you for calling in, and I will get you scheduled in here. I'll send you an email or a message and let you know when I've got an opening so we can get you in and talk about what all you're doing. And Night Owl, thank you again for calling, and thank you, Urban Avenger, for calling in and being part of this. And everybody that's listening, 30 minutes, if you don't think this was a long enough show, please do send a message to Blog Talk Radio, letting them know that we want our hour back. And let them know that it's just not acceptable. Okay. And if that doesn't work out, we maybe have to figure out some way that we can sell some T-shirts or something and raise the money for all the listeners that want to have an hour-long program on this and just pay the thing, do some sort of merchandising or something. I don't know. We'll have to do something because we need more time. This is just not enough time to really get into some of these topics and cover things. But I want to thank all of you for calling. I'm going to sign out. Everybody say good day.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Skyman salute.
And thank you very much for calling, and I will see you next week. And cross time, same cross channel. In the meantime, everybody, see you on the high road. Keep doing what's right, and let's impact this world around us.
Y'all have a good night.